Welcome and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. In this show, we cover a broad range of topics that cater to commercial real estate newcomers and industry leaders alike. I'm your host, Yannis Papadakis, Business Development Manager at Crexi, a comprehensive digital commercial real estate platform designed to empower commercial real estate professionals with the tools they need to discover and transact property. Today, we are thrilled to sit down with none other than Jake Marmulstein, CEO of Groundbreaker Technologies, to discuss how commercial real estate tech is poised to optimize and transform the future of property investing. A little background about Jake. Jake is the founder, president, and CEO of the real estate investment tech SaaS company, Groundbreaker Technologies. At Groundbreaker, Jake owns the company's strategic vision, recruiting, fundraising, and company culture. Before founding the company, Jake held several roles in real estate and technology, supporting the growth of early-stage digital technology ventures. In 2011, he started his real estate career while underwriting distressed hotel investments for Watermark Capital Partners, a private REIT based out of Chicago. He graduated from the hotel school at Cornell University with a concentration in real estate finance. Before moving to Chicago, Jake lived abroad in Europe, Brazil, and Puerto Rico, learning both Spanish and Portuguese. Jake, bienvenido. Let's dive in.
Obrigado.
So you were just in Brazil. And we were talking before we got started. You were just in Brazil, and you've got some of your team down there too. Is that right?
Yes, sir. We're a fully remote company with a international team, and it's very interesting to be able to do that and build a remote team with a company culture that speaks multiple languages.
That's awesome. Well, I'd love to dive in and begin by looking at some deeper questions about your career path and how you got to where you are today. First, how did you get involved in commercial real estate? What initially attracted you to the space and led you kind of deeper into the sector?
So, the exposure at Cornell gave me the chance to see a lot of different things. And while our focus was hotels, that's like owning a company every single day. You have to fill it with people to be able to generate the revenue for the rooms. And I remember being in Rio de Janeiro on a study abroad, and I was looking at kind of the way that the city was developing and all the different plans. This was, mind you, before the Olympics and before the World Cup and everything came down. So there were a ton of things that were going on. And I was just intrigued by that opportunity to create and change the way that people were interacting with their environment through real estate and through development, and the access to new opportunity through the built world.
That's it's interesting. So while traveling, while kind of outside of your traditional market is what really spurred your interest into getting involved in your own. And where were you living in the States at the time?
I believe at that point I was still in New York.
Okay. And when you were abroad and you started, discovering this interest, was like New York real estate kind of where you started to gravitate towards, or did you have kind of like a broader interest?
Yeah, it was really at that point looking at international markets. I mean, I remember thinking about I was talking to a real estate developer and a hotel developer who wanted to take all the Hampton Inns franchise in the United States and bring that to Brazil, and then pop those hotels in everywhere around the country as things were growing, and kind of doing a market analysis and a demand analysis on the available hotel rooms and seeing how tourism numbers were going to increase as the country's GDP was growing, how that necessitated all this infrastructure that didn't already exist. And kind of that's where it started. And then seeing some of the distressed assets and the forgotten assets that were in an area of the city that really hadn't been taken care of and hadn't seen renovation or development, to be able to go in and reimagine that area, which later became a fully newly renovated area of the city, and has tons of Class A buildings, new public infrastructure, transportation, and a bunch of other stuff that attracts people to the area and improves the quality of life. So yeah, that was really from that kind of perspective of kind of not seeing the development, but knowing that it's coming,
Right.
and the impact that was going to make really opened my eyes to real estate investing um, and the potential that there was there.
Interesting. So, this kind of leads right into my next question, which were, where did you start to experience, or, what problems or challenges did you face when you were kind of diving into this space that led to the creation of Groundbreaker Technologies? And actually, let's back up a little bit, real quick. Actually, you know what? We'll get into that in the second top. I was going to have you go back and tell me about Groundbreaker Technology, but we're going to dive in there later. Let's go back to that question. What were the initial problems or challenges that you faced that led to the creation of Groundbreaker Technologies?
Yeah. So, for example, when I was looking at buying a hotel, I was actually a very, very, green and ambitious college grad, and I had some experience living abroad. And I imagined this great boutique hotel that I was going to buy downtown in a dilapidated building that needed some love. And I remember putting together the presentation materials and trying to package that up and sell that to a family office. And it was so difficult for me to be able to build the necessary professional look and presentation that I needed to be able to gain confidence from investors, and also just to be able to know what I was doing in terms of structuring the process and being able to pitch investors and raise capital. Never, not to mention all the execution that was going to need to get done after the fact. And so, that was definitely a pain point in terms of how can you help people who are early on in the game that have the desire and the ambition to do real estate investing? How can you help them to be able to have the structure, the expertise, and the network in place so that they can start doing real estate investments? And then after they're able to close a deal, how can you help them to be able to manage that process so that their investors are happy? And that part I learned more about when I was working in a REIT, and I was doing all the work related to having to store that data, communicate with investors, and handle the back office. And what I realized was that the tools of using Excel and email were error prone. There was a ton of friction in the process, and one-to-one communications are great when you have a small number of people you're talking to, but as you multiply and get more and more people, it's something that is impossible to manage, especially when you're small.
Right. So it sounds like you developed it out of a personal need for a tool, and you saw, okay, I need something for myself. Also, you had experience, working, with a REIT, knowing what it is that are valuable for you. So both on the institutional side, you were, hitting those pain points, and then privately on your own, trying to go through your own process, you were hitting those pain points, and you were like, hey, I need a tool that's going to help alleviate both of these, and that's kind of where it was born out of.
Yeah, exactly. It's just everybody faces these challenges, and also the fact that real estate people typically aren't tech. They don't know how to write code. They might know Visual Basic, but being able to develop software platforms is a whole other thing. And so we realize that people aren't equipped to really shift their business. They're going to use the tools that are available to them. So that's where I realized that there was this massive opportunity to be able to build a tool and to be able to empower people at any stage, mostly focusing on early stage real estate syndicators who don't have the staff and they don't have the capital to be able to throw at this problem.
Right. And kind of pivoting from that, how did you prepare for the realities of starting a new company and building this tool, right? That must have been a huge shift from what you were already doing. What were the first steps there, and how did you take them?
Well, I got really lucky in the people that I was working with at the time, to be able to work with really accomplished, successful software engineers and other people in the real estate securities and real estate investment banking industries to be able to put this together. I kind of had a nice ramp up into the business, and they helped me to be able to really understand what was going on. Where I was more in a product development, product management type of role, understanding people's needs and asking the right types of questions to be able to identify our market and to be able to identify the problems that we needed to focus on. But I was mostly really lucky to be surrounded by other people who knew a lot more than me, who wanted to be able to see this business come together. And I'd say other than that, there was really no preparation, but just diving in and doing it and having a
Right.
lot of conversations with people in the market.
Nice. And I'm sure, baptism by fire, just diving in, taught you a lot of lessons really early. What were some of those early lessons, or what tools have best served you as a, tech founder?
Well, yeah, you're the leader who builds the team, but the team builds the leadership in the company. So it's important to recognize that when you're early on and be able to know how to give people the right responsibility, so that they can own different parts of the business, because you'll go so much faster by giving people that vision and then letting them run with the operation. Uh, of course, at the same time, you need to be able to pick people who align with your mission, your vision, and your values. Um, so it's really all about team. Um, that's kind of the biggest lesson I learned, and it took me a while to be able to find that team and find those people. Also, doing this is not a fly by night kind of thing. It's a marathon, and you've got to be able to prepare yourself. So uh, you go through periods, cycles of being up and periods of being down. And the goal should be to develop systems around you and things around you so that you can maintain as much in the center as possible.
Yeah. Wow. I'm really excited actually for this next part, because this is the reason why I brought you on. So we met at the C5 NAR Summit in New York, and there are a bunch of brokers there and vendors there, and I met you in the conference hall, and you told me about Groundbreaker, and it totally blew my mind, because I knew for a fact there was nothing else like that out there, in terms of what you have built and kind of the tech forward approach to, you know, giving tools to syndicators. So I wanted to get you on here to talk about it, because to me it was the most exciting thing that I saw at that summit. So tell us about Groundbreaker Tech. What is your mission? What is your vision? You know, tell us all about Groundbreaker.
Thanks so much for saying that. Yeah, we dreamed up a world in which every real estate investment company would have a portal to be able to service their investors. When I started when we started the company, um, because consumer tastes are changing and people are adopting technology to be able to manage demands that investors have on being able to access information and to be able to do things, from their computer or their phone. So as we got into that vision and started continuing to find customers, it became clear to me that it's also about empowering this all generations of real estate investment professionals by giving them tools so that they can manage their business more efficiently and offer their investors a white glove service, but also to give them resources and connections to scale and grow faster while reducing their failure rate. So what does that mean? Groundbreaker provides a fundraising and investor reporting software that's affordable, that's easy to use, and that makes the real estate company look very professional to their investors to give them this white glove concierge experience. But as we got into the market and we started selling more and more to early real estate syndicators that are just getting their first few deals going, we realized that there's a lot of expertise gaps that exist. And the real estate investment market, even though people are sometimes bidding for the same deals and they're competitive, they're also partnering on deals together. And there's a network there that wants to be able to transact and do things with their data and with their investors and with their deals in a more streamlined way. And so we want to create that network. We are creating that network and empowering those people with tools and the ability to create more of an exchange so that they can complete transactions faster and they can scale their business with less complexity.
That's so exciting as somebody that's a real estate investor and interested in deals and partnering with people, that in a way you're kind of creating a community around investment, by merit of using your tools. My imagination's kind of going, in a direction that maybe you're going to, which is, maybe my typical investment group, right, it isn't interested in this new, investment thesis I have, right? And so I need more new investors. Well, hey, here's a platform with investors that are also, following this type of investment thesis. Like, at some point, you really have the ability to kind of connect the dots between investors within the space and, allow deals to start springing up organically with people that may never have connected otherwise. I think it's remarkable, first and foremost, leveling the playing field and empowering all stakeholders is so on brand with what Crexi is doing as well, which is, exactly why I was, wow, this guy, he gets it. He's, his crosshairs are on where the market is going. And I think that's evident by, just the success that, technology companies in this space are experiencing. There is a thirst for it. So I'm so excited to hear that. Now, tell me a little bit about who are your customers now. Give us a little bit of kind of a profile on who's using the tools, what kind of growth have you seen, and where do you kind of see that growth moving forward this year?
Okay, so yeah, I'll give you a little story. So there's like an example of somebody named Duke. Duke's a realtor out in Hawaii, and he ends up meeting Vince. Vince works in the Navy, and he's looking for an apartment. So Duke ends up renting an apartment to Vince, and then they become friends, and they're like, hey, we should invest in some real estate together. So they join a real estate mastermind group called Jake and Gino. We're fantastic partners of ours. And they learn a little bit about real estate underwriting, acquiring investors, sourcing deals, and pitching. And then they start to invest in their own deals. They do some joint ventures. And before long, they're saying, you know what? Managing real estate is something that we can do. We know how to do it. We've experienced some of the hiccups before, but we feel confident that we can do this with a group of friends and family. And so they get a referral from Jake and Gino to check out Groundbreaker. They get onboarded to our solution and they start loading up their first deal. They're raising $1 million in equity from 25 different investors that are within their network. And they end up closing the deal within a couple of weeks. And now they're managing those investors over the Groundbreaker portal. They're using Groundbreaker to send distributions to investors and distributing K1s and documents to investors so they can get excited about the next deal that Duke and Vince are going to do. All happening on the Groundbreaker software platform. So, multiply this by tens of thousands of investors and a lot more real estate syndications. This is the kind of audience that we're targeting and who have found a lot of success using our platform.
Do you see as a trend in this space more adoption of fractionalized ownership of commercial real estate? As we look at kind of investment products, today and as they're kind of evolving, and both with traditional investment vehicles, new ones like cryptocurrencies, fractionalized ownership is becoming more popular. Instead of owning a whole Bitcoin, you can have a piece of one, right? Do you see with tech making commercial real estate in general more accessible? Do you see it as something that is going to become more mainstream because of these vehicles, because of tools like Groundbreaker, which is going to allow, average investors, people that may not, want to go in and do the underwriting, find the deals, understand how to, stabilize and turn a profit. Do you see that this becomes more mainstream and, more people start engaging in commercial real estate because of it?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's becoming so much more accessible, but it's also for the real estate deal sponsors, the operators. They're going after more deals that otherwise might not have been feasible before, because the amount of work that they have to do to be able to raise capital and pitch investors has gone down. Technology has increased their ability to be able to work with more people at smaller check sizes and work with smaller deals, because the amount of work that they have to do went from 100 hours per deal to 20 hours per deal with Groundbreaker.
Interesting.
And yeah, and so
the juice becomes worth the squeeze because you don't have to squeeze as hard to get the juice anymore.
exactly. It's that investment opportunity that you might have passed on because you were like, well, I don't have the investor, I don't have the investors to be able to fund that small of a deal. And then you go and you do that deal because you can just raise the capital in, a couple of days using a solution that's streamlined.
And that must open the door in a huge way for companies when they can really offset those hours spent, the sweat equity of setting things up, and organizing it. That's a lot of time and effort that you're, putting back, on their calendar and giving back to them. So I'm curious, where's the value for Groundbreaker here, right? It seems like there's a tremendous amount of value you're creating for the syndicators. How does Groundbreaker get paid?
So we operate on a pretty simple subscription model. The software is a couple $100 a month. And then you get on board, you're using it with a deal or based on the size of the deal. You're paying a flat subscription fee. And as your business grows and you get more deals and more equity under management, our success is your success. So we're getting paid more, and there's no fees related to really anything else. We give the platform fully burdened with signing and payments, and we pay those fees for you and wrap those in, and you're getting the customer support that you'll need without any additional cost.
Nice. Now, I have to ask, you're not the only person in this space. So what differentiates Groundbreaker from other investment tools? Is it AI, automation, user experience? What really sets you apart from everybody that's trying to do what you're doing so successfully?
Well, so for us, we don't want to necessarily serve the guys who already have the capital and the team to be able to build a solution or throw money at the problem. We're looking at empowering the guys who don't have the resources. So our market segmentation is focused on those early stage real estate syndicators and partnering with them so that they can, grow with us. Not to mention our platform is the most beautiful software out there. It's really easy to use. The interface is slick and clean, and that lends to that overall experience of wowing your investors and looking really professional. And our customer service team is second to none. So we really help the customer get acclimated to the software, get onboarded and activated with personalized support the whole way through.
Having a professional looking experience, both for me as the user, but also for the materials that I'm sharing with potential investors, is such a world of difference. It doesn't matter if the deal is a grand slam, right? If it's presented on post-it notes, good luck getting somebody to invest, right? Doesn't matter how clear the numbers are. Meanwhile, I've seen some terrible deals with amazing packages where it's like, wow, I may actually want this, even though the numbers don't work, because presentation matters. And just dating myself, back before I joined Crexi, I was in brokerage at Marcus and Millichap, and one of the most successful brokers in our office spent a ton on marketing, but the part of marketing we spent the most on was his presentation materials, his packages. He had a bookmaker, somebody that went to school for bookmaking that made his OMs, and he really told everybody that would listen, it's all about the presentation. The package needs to look excellent. If nothing else, I want to have the best looking package of all the brokers being considered. And it sounds like you've really put a lot of time and effort into, making the tools something that are, best in class. If you're going to present, you're going to ask for $1 million, $2 million plus, you better, look like a team that can handle it. So that's huge. And I know that if you don't have those tools, if you're a starting agent, you're competing against guys like that in your own office, you got to learn, Photoshop or something quick so that you can get on their level. Because once you see what's out there, and you look at your own, if it's not on the level, it's really hard to get noticed. So that's incredible. Now I want to zoom back a little more broadly. How do you see the commercial real estate sector embracing tech tools in the coming year? And then let's look a little further out next 5 years.
So I think that it's going to be a lot more adoption of technology. It continues to ramp up more and more. So I think more companies that are entering into the space, that are starting their businesses, the guys that are in our target market, they're going to gravitate towards using a tool as soon as possible so that they can get their investors acclimated and get familiar with the software to be able to successfully nail that raise when they go forward. I think that technology is just going to continue to be a part of the stack from day one. And
Right.
It's just like all about removing bottlenecks, creating a sense of security, a sense of polish, and a sense of purpose with the experience that's just going to be kind of de facto what you would expect as an investor. And
Right.
if you don't have that, then you're not going to look so good.
How have you seen the adoption of commercial real estate technology roll out? Slowly, quickly? I know as a broker, when I was wearing the broker hat, it was pretty slow watching, brokers change from their old CRM, or some of them were on Excel or still using Excel. So tech moving into the space has been slow, except in circumstances where agents notice other agents are getting deals done, and then it's, what are you doing? How'd you find that deal? How'd you market that deal? Do you see this kind of tech rolling out faster now that we're starting to see more mass adoption within other areas of tech?
Yeah, particularly with the software that we're providing, it was like a slow ramp to get started, because it was having to do with a lot of education. Like, hey, why do I need to change this if what I'm working isn't broken? And it's also kind of it's a generational thing in a way. People who are already accustomed to technology are expecting to have a technology-driven experience. So when you see other people, peers of yours, who are using this technology to be able to raise capital and manage investors, whether, if you started out as an LP, that's kind of the experience that you would expect to give your investors when you're ready to start raising capital. And that effect has led to a massive increase in the adoption.
Nice. So what are the key challenges that commercial real estate tech firms face when it comes to getting syndicators on board? Where does the aha moment occur with your clients, where they understand your tool?
So usually to begin, people come in thinking that the software will provide them with that professional experience and it'll make them look good. But once they're actually raising money and they see their signatures roll in and they see the contributions rolling in electronically, they they just, you know, they lose it. It's an amazing experience to be able to see your bank account getting filled up and your email, you know, your inbox getting hit up with your investors funding your deal, and you're not having to talk to a single one. The same thing with distributions, when you can just spend, you know, 5 minutes punching in the information, and then you hit a button to send, and your investors are getting paid through ACH, and all the information is going into the portal and being reported. I mean, you just saved hours and hours of time by doing something like that. And in the process, you made a lot of people really happy.
Nice. So, time to get out the crystal ball. Any predictions about the future of automated investing tools in real estate?
I think that there's going to be some form of aggregation. Uh, you know, we're seeing this with like platforms like Get Vincent, for example, that do raising. You know, they take all the real estate crowdfunding deals and they put them into a single platform. I think it's going to be interesting to see tools that investors can use to be able to aggregate their real estate portfolios if they're housed in, you know, different portals and different data silos.
Amazing. Well, it's been an eye-opening podcast, and I really appreciate kind of hearing where your head is at in terms of opening up the marketplace or opening up the tools for what has traditionally been a pretty tight-lipped sector within commercial real estate, right? How syndicators go find their deals, how they, you know, put it together and make it successful. You're a little bit, you're kind of showing the magician's tricks here by kind of opening it up and making this platform. You know, have you gotten any negative feedback from people in the space, like, oh, you're making it too easy for people to compete with us, anything like that?
Well, when we started the company, there were a lot of people who loved the tool and actually didn't want to recommend it because they wanted the competitive advantage that it gave them. But you know, the more and more people that are out there using the software, it doesn't really make a difference. I think where maybe there's going to be a pushback as you get more and more deals into the market. If that becomes something that investors you know, they can compare and contrast deals across each other, that's going to create a more competitive market for people that are putting deals together, and it's going to commoditize those deals and raise questions on fees and structures. And you know, it's kind of like the Wild West in some way with real estate syndications. So I think a lot of sponsors are a little bit concerned with that.
Right.
And at the same time, we don't want to minimize you know, the work that they do and commodify their work, because every deal is different.
Right.
But I think that's somewhat of a challenge moving forward if we're really going to build a massive network of real estate deals and democratize access to investing.
Let me ask this. In your own business, when you're approached with a technology or a vendor, you know, what goes into your decision making as to, you know, is this something that we want to look at for Groundbreaker?
That's a great question. When you put it that way, I think about what are the problems that we have, and you know, how is this vendor or this solution going to solve them, and trying to understand from the different stakeholders. So for a small real estate investment company, you know, you have to kind of consider what your investors like and what kind of experience you want to deliver to them. That's you know, maybe the advice that I would have, because the business is pretty simple operation. So there's not so much thought that needs to go into it, just to be able to understand what kind of experience you want to deliver to your people.
Excellent. All right. Finally, any advice for tech-minded entrepreneurs looking to enter the commercial real estate space?
Just because real estate is so fragmented and it's such a big market, it's really, really important to pinpoint who the customer is and what the problem is you're solving. So you have to focus intently on that customer and really developing out what is the exact solution, what is the problem, and how you're solving it. So you don't end up building something that's unfocused and doesn't have a true focused customer segment, just because those segments are, there's just so many people to serve in real estate.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Jake, we're at the end of our talk track. I want to thank you for joining us and sharing your insights, especially on such important topics. We really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy, so thank you for taking the time this morning to sit down with us. Where can people find you online if they want to get in touch with you? Can you share your email and your socials?
Yeah, anybody can add me on LinkedIn, Jake Marmulstein, and my email is jake@groundbreaker.co. You can also find Groundbreaker on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Excellent. Well, thank you to everyone who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't miss the next one. Visit go.crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. Of course, you can always subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app and check out our YouTube channel for recordings of each episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.